Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Geekcast Presents. I'm Slim Jim, and I'm joined here by Seamus and Sam. And tonight we're talking Star Wars. We're all pretty old Star Wars fans. We grew up reading the Star Wars books, watching the Star Wars playing the Star Wars games, the comics, all
Watching
that
an older
good
sibling
stuff.
play the Star Wars game.
That was my life, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, when you're a decade older than your co-hosts, you sometimes forget that they didn't grow up with cool games like TIE Fighter. So anywho, we were gonna kind of take a look at this. It kind of stemmed from a conversation that Seamus and I had the other night, which is why did Star Wars stop being cool in the '90s? What happened to it? So we were gonna go ahead and unpack that. We'll kind of get our spiel out there at first, and then if we manage to gin up any viewers tonight, we'll open up the Hangout and y'all can come in and argue your point and tell us why you think Rey is such a strong character and Rogue One was the best Star Wars movie ever.
And why you think the little soccer ball guy is so cute.
We will disagree with you, and everybody will have a good laugh at the end. So, all right, guys.
Yes.
What happened to Star Wars? Why isn't it cool anymore?
I'm going to say, before we get into any of that, we should probably just say what our relationship to Star Wars is and why we liked it in the first place.
Fair enough. You go ahead and kickstart that, Seamus.
All right. Star Wars was one of the first experiences of watching a movie that I really remember. We had the unaltered box set, and so my first Star Wars memory is actually George Lucas talking to Leonard Maltin in front of a cheap Starfield background. So
I remember that.
Yeah, to me, Star Wars was like a cool kind of dingy space western. Han Solo was my favorite character as a kid. And I mostly attached to that one movie, Star Wars 77. I did see Empire Strikes Back when they re-released them in theaters, and but that didn't really stay with me, and neither did Jedi. To this day, I think Jedi is boring. Like basically, I was always into that one movie. And then I was into video games, particularly much later, the Knights of the Old Republic games, which is also what got me into D&D, because it's a D20 system. And so my perspective is like my Star Wars is really just the original movie, KOTOR. I have read the comic books and all that crap, but none of it stuck. And also the song "What Do You Get a Wookiee for Christmas" when he already owns a comb, from the holiday album. Anyway, Sam, Jim.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though. Star Wars to me, it was interesting because I was number 5 out of 7 kids, and Star Wars, movies in general, were kind of a rite of passage in my family. And there were certain movies in particular that you had to actually see while growing up, and Star Wars was one of them. One of my sisters, however, before I even saw any of the Star Wars movies, actually pretty much spoiled every major plot point, just like beat for beat. But I didn't care because it was just such a thing. Like, I have to see Star Wars. I have to see it. And to me, like, it was pretty amazing being able to see something that was just hyped up so much for me. But it's one of the few times that something that I've had hyped up for me did not let me down, because Star Wars there have been numerous psychology and literature books written about Star Wars itself and how iconic it is for storytelling and all of that jazz. But it's kind of funny though, because like I know that A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back are better movies technically, but for some reason, just on an emotional level, my favorite is Return of the Jedi. I like, the whole movie is not good, and I realize that, But for me, what really gets me is just the finale where it keeps cutting back to Luke, Vader, and the Emperor, and just that bit of it really resonated with me so much, even now in my adult years.
Does that prolonged sequence where C-3PO is posing as the shiny golden god still stick with you?
I get it's entertaining to me. I like watching Han Solo at his grumpiest during that part of the movie. Because nothing is worse for a man's man, John Wayne inspired character, than being surrounded by a tribe of teddy bears.
It's actually funny because I don't really think that Harrison Ford had to work very hard to embrace the method when portraying that particular scene.
Yes, oh god. But I always hated the Ewok shit, but it's a lot more entertaining in retrospect. Mostly after I heard Mark Hamill was doing some kind of panel, and he was talking about the Ewoks. And he was like, it's weird because the Ewoks are carnivorous. They're trying to kill us and eat us. It's like seeing an Ewok eat one of them would be like watching a chimp eating meat. Just like the most disturbing thing.
I feel like the Ewoks would be the only part of the original trilogy that would actually benefit from like a CGI augmentation. Give them some bigger jaws and sharper teeth, and then we're talking.
Making them blink like they did in the re-releases.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, right? They were originally supposed to be kind of shorter, more ferocious Chewbacca-type creatures.
Yeah,
and somewhere in the pre-production, they underwent this metamorphosis into the teddy bear.
Yeah, the story that
it was for toy sales, right?
Yeah, the story that Mark, I think again it's Mark Hamill, or it might have been someone else related, talking about why the Ewoks are in the movie, and originally they were supposed to go to Chewbacca's planet Kashyyyk, but they didn't have the budget to make like dozens and dozens of Chewbacca costumes. So George Lucas just says like, well, what if we just made them small? Like, okay. We do have the budget for that. George Lucas has a weird problem with budgets. Anyway.
If you think about it, making them smaller is kind of an ingenious solution to a problem, but like taking the cutesy cop out is a little bit questionable.
It's funny in retrospect. Anyway, Jim, what is your relationship to Star Wars?
I had been trying for the better part of about, 20 years, trying to figure out exactly what it is I love about Star Wars. And I've never really been able to put a definitive answer on it. I just know that no matter how much I try not to like Star Wars, I end up liking Star Wars. That being said, it's more of a thing for me where I keep coming back to the things I loved as a kid. And I don't really like the newer stuff. Like even books like even when you get into the old expanded universe, the Legends stuff, right? Like the Fate of the Jedi series, which was the last novel run they published. I don't like it as much as things like, the Jedi Academy trilogy or The Heir to the Empire, stuff like that. I don't know. For me, I guess it was always like my primary escapism. It was just my thing. I mean, I saw it when I was like, I saw The Empire Strikes Back when I was, like 5 years old, maybe?
Like, just first run.
What's that?
So, like, during its first run?
Just after. Like, it had just been out on home video, and my dad really liked it. So, I distinctly remember Dad taking me to Blockbuster. I said, Dad, why are we going? And he says, we're going to go get Star Wars. And I remember watching it and thinking, like, this was the craziest thing I had ever seen. This is so cool. And I don't know. It ingrained itself into my psyche early on, and it stuck.
Oh,
I can really kind of relate to that. Again, we grew up in the same household, but I just that one scene, because Luke Skywalker is my favorite character, and I'm that one weird guy who really enjoys him for the character arc. But just that part when he walks into the carbon chamber in Empire, and then you hear that Darth Vader breath, and he does the whole "the Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet." Like that just. I just remember as a kid, I don't even remember how old I was. Just that one part, I was like, holy shit.
young Sam. Holy shit.
I think that was one thing too, because like after a while, we kind of forgot about Star Wars, but it was always something that kind of hung out in the back of my head. So I didn't start getting back into it again until I was maybe, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old. I mean, I'd seen it around, my friends, watch it from time to time. So I always had like these vague impressions and images stuck in my head, right? Of like Luke and Darth Vader on that bridge over the giant wind tunnel, or of Darth Vader killing Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Death Star, Han Solo being put in a carbon freeze, that kind of thing. So I guess for me, it's like it's almost the purest form of indoctrination you can get. It just, I don't know. It's in my blood, I guess. And on that note, I'm going to welcome Sock Account to the broadcast. He has accused us of heresy, and I would like you to explain yourself, sir.
Because Star Wars is probably one of the greatest franchises ever created, and that I, for one, am actually happy with the direction it's gone. And that anybody that disagrees with me is automatically a heretic and should be burnt at the stake. Simply.
So pretty much par of the course then for the great debate community, right? We disagree, therefore you are worst person ever.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, you got to take two extremes, right? You can't hope for any type of like middle ground. Come on, man, that doesn't exist here.
I'll admit that Star Wars is the greatest marketing scheme ever created, but as a universe as a whole, I think it has a lot to be desired.
No, I mean, I will criticize the hell out of where it's going right now, and I think I'm generally dissatisfied, especially since they canceled the Legends continuity. That being said, though, like I still watch the TV shows. I keep up to date on Star Wars Rebels.
I actually like that they threw out all the Wikipedia crap just because it pisses off the people who take it seriously.
Well, I think that it was
just
really...
Sorry, did you correctly say the Wikipedia site?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I caught that.
I think what really got a lot of fans blood boiling, though, is that Kathleen Kennedy said that she doesn't want to cater to, quote, neck-bearded fanboys.
Who's Kathleen Kennedy? I went to high school with a girl named Kathleen Kennedy.
She's the head of Lucasfilm. She's one of the reasons why Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull happened.
Oh.
Wait,
yeah,
what? What was that?
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy was the executive producer for Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I don't remember that movie.
Just do it.
That movie doesn't exist. Lies.
I remember there was a movie with Harrison Ford in it and Shia LaBeouf, but I don't remember it being an Indiana Jones film.
Yeah,
They had similarly named characters.
Indy 4 serves the same function as the Star Wars prequels. Like Joni Mitchell said, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And so, like, yeah, we can just as a preview, like Star Wars was kind of in decline by the 90s, and then the prequels, revitalized it because it made people remember, how much they like the originals. But yeah, So we have 3 people who believe Star Wars sucks nowadays. We have 1 guy who thinks it's awesome. Shall we
I wouldn't say as a whole Star Wars sucks nowadays. There are 1 or 2 elements that I like, but I'll elaborate on that later. I just think that now there's a lot to be desired.
Yeah. Like, what would all you guys say?
What do you mean by that? Like, what do you think needs to be desired?
I think personally, the whole J.J. Abrams model of a mystery box is not what Star Wars is supposed to be. Star Wars, to me, is supposed to be individual films that fit as an actual story, but J.J. seems more... He has a long track record in his career of ripping off of things that he likes, sort of like Quentin Tarantino. But the way that J.J. Abrams falls short to Quentin Tarantino is when he rips stuff off, he can't resolve it. So basically, like Stephen King, he's okay with a concept. He's just poor at executing a satisfying ending.
Spoiler alert, Sam does not like Stephen King.
Yeah, he's not for everyone. But if you do like him, oh, you lucky boy. You have, 1,000 novels to choose from. But, yeah, like, so, Sam, you think the biggest problem, or what do you say your biggest problem with, like, the Star Wars franchise in general is?
To me, there's 2 big problems. The first big problem is just lack of a clear direction, because they keep on saying that they want to push new ground, but then as soon as they try to push new ground, they'll fire the director and hire someone else who is, quote, the safe choice. They've done that twice already. And the second problem is that they take Star Wars, which is supposed to be a fantasy story in outer space, and they keep on trying to infuse identity politics from contemporary society into it. So therefore they take a story that's timeless and they put a date stamp on it, which the original trilogy didn't have.
Yeah,
what's an example of the identity politics?
The identity politics that I'm talking about are basically how Kathleen Kennedy said that her agenda is to promote strong female characters. Now, if you want a strong female character, that's fine. Star Wars is chock full of them. That's cool. But when you go to the forefront and say, this is my agenda, this is what Star Wars is all about for me, and J.J. Abrams did the same exact thing, then that really kind of cheapens it a lot. And then it becomes less of, okay, this character is earning everything, or this character is our new hero, and then it basically becomes like, yeah, we're doing this to please a whole bunch of people who are complaining.
We want to convince little girls that they can grow up and be a Wookiee.
Which
I'll tell you, you know what? I will agree that is annoying when movies do that, when they try to throw the identity politics in there. And what I think that maybe this is where the social justice warriors would be upset about this. But the thing was, like, you take a look at characters like Rey or what's her name, Gino, the one from Star Wars Rogue One.
Jyn Erso.
Jyn Erso, whatever it was.
Not to be confused with Jana Larso, the Zerka Corporation representative from Knights of the Old Republic too.
Well, a lot of the times that they complain about is that they will take characters and they didn't try to feminize those characters. They didn't try to overly feminize them. They could have been either sex. Nothing really changed with the dynamic of the character. There was no traits about them that was, distinguishably female or male. They were just the heroes. And I think that's a good direction to go. When you could have a main character in a story and have it represent, change the sex on it and not lose any elements to the story, I think that it works fine, and I think that they did that well with those characters.
I think that the thing that really highlighted the identity politics for me for the new Star Wars film was that in the Force Awakens, or as I call it, Star Wars Greatest Hits, Rey didn't really have to work for anything at all. Whereas, you get Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, which is why I love his story. He was good at really one thing, and it was piloting. When you saw him firing a gun, most of the time he missed until he actually hit the target. Whereas Rey, she misses once, and then she's a fucking expert marksman, which is bizarre. She's an expert pilot, and then she's mastering the Jedi mind trick, and then she's beating somebody in a lightsaber duel who's actually been training with lightsabers his entire life. It doesn't really make sense to me at all. I feel like I hadn't thought about it that much because I forgot about Force Awakens 5 minutes after I walked out of it. But the Mary Sue-ism is fucking obscene. Like, what kind of story is that? It's like, oh, this is my cool character, and they're good at everything, and everybody likes them. It's basically what J.J. Abrams said going into it, where he said, I want to create a character that mothers and daughters can latch onto. I'm like, okay, cool. If that's your goal, then at least make her believable.
I can assure you my mother doesn't give a shit about this. Actually, yeah, the mothers and daughters don't care about this. Your fucking role model shouldn't be some fictional occupation in a stupid popcorn movie that's just a cash grab, Like Disney was concerned that they didn't own the whole of this nation's soul, and so they just had to. It's like, what else can we acquire? What else is left?
Well, that being said, though, I will say that the Force Awakens does have some good things going for it. First and foremost is the whole mystery of Snoke. Like, who is he? Where did he come from? Why is he here? Why did he recreate the Empire in his own image, and why is he trying to reconquer the galaxy?
Yeah, Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing that The Force Awakens brought us. I also think Harrison Ford's lifelong dream of killing off Han Solo kind of helped move the story forward in a grim direction, which I like.
You like yours? Now, I like my Star Wars gritty, but I wouldn't say I like it grim. It's like I had to shut off Rogue One after 20 minutes because I was like, oh, this movie has no sense of humor.
I mean, I can get into Rogue One in just a minute. But one thing that was really great about The Force Awakens was the first half. Because when they're sitting there on Jakku talking to the old man, and I don't know if it was the set design or John Williams' score or what it was, but for a few moments I was back in there with the 80s, with those grandiose sci-fi sets like you would get in something like Stargate or whatnot. Like, it brought me back there. And then you've got the whole mystery of, who's Kylo Ren, what's he doing, that whole thing. Why is Luke Skywalker missing? Oh boy, a map. It touched on all those kind of like spaghetti Western Saturday morning sci-fi serial things that we all loved as kids and that we loved seeing in Star Wars.
Again,
the second half is where it fell apart.
It goes back to what I was saying, where J.J. Abrams is really great with introducing a concept, but he's piss poor at resolving it. In fact, he even said he doesn't know who Rey's parents are.
Kind of like Lost, right? Where they were just making it up as they go?
Pretty much, yeah. Or even Super 8, man. Like, that movie was such a mess.
Here's my question. Why would I give a shit about who Rey's parents are when Rey is a boring character who I don't care about?
Exactly. The movie doesn't set it up in a way where you actually care who your parents are, because for all you know, Rey's parents are a bunch of dicks who left her on the planet. To me, the only likable new character was Finn, because I really understood Finn's motivations right there. Like that was probably the best filmmaking J.J. Abrams has done in a long time. Just kind of like visually, you get Finn's motivation without any dialogue from him, which is great because film is a visual medium. To me, though, like Rey isn't very likable, just because like she's good at everything. Nobody likes somebody who's good at everything. Let's face it. And also, Poe is not likable at all, because when you think about it, when they crash landed on Jakku, he pretty much left Finn there to die.
And Poe's not even a character. Like, he's not even really in the movie. Like,
No, Poe was supposed to die. He was supposed to be a one-off, and then he's all like, "Hey, JJ, I want to be in the movie," and he's all like, "Okay, I'll figure it out."
I want
And
a
he comes,
lifetime of royalties, please.
and again, this is where it comes in that JJ is not good at executing a concept. He goes, "I figured it out. You survived the crash." He goes, "Oh, cool. How?" He goes, "I don't know, but you just left."
Yeah. I don't get any of the characters. I don't see any of them as being fun. I don't see any of them as being really characters. Like, okay, Rey is a stupid Mary Sue character. Poe's barely in the movie. Finn, his motivations don't really make any sense. Like, he flees the Empire or New Order because he doesn't want to kill people. He's like a coward or something, even though he's been raised as a child to be a killer or something. But then, like, a few scenes later, he has like no problem like murdering stormtroopers. Like,
I think. Okay, so hold on a second. So yeah, I think that this is one of those things. Is that, are we talking about the new movies? Or are we talking about the movies in general? Or because
just talking about the movies in general.
Okay, and I can agree with that. You know, with the movies in general, there's a lot of things across all the movies that make no sense at all. You know, why Luke's been raised by his auntie and uncle his entire life. How come he doesn't really care that they just died? You know, he moved on from that tragedy pretty quick. You know, by the end of the first movie, without the context of the sequels that we know now, there was a lot of things that were left open ended at the end of A New Hope as well.
I'm going to disagree that Luke didn't care about Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, because visually it really, like, it's one of those slow burn scenes in a fast-paced movie.
Hold up. Let's let everybody finish their thoughts before we go jumping in on them. We're all friends here.
Yeah, no, I mean, say there's a lot of things that were left open-ended, a lot of questions that were unanswered in the first movie that were brought in afterwards. So, you know, that's why I think that it's an unfair comparison to say that, you know, there's so many things like, well, why would we care who, you know, Rey's parents are or anything like that? That stuff will come later. You know, as part of a complete picture, it might be absolutely brilliant. It might not. Who knows?
Yeah, but the big problem is that I don't care about Rey because Rey is a boring character and is unlikable.
I'm going to say that the difference between Rey and Luke as protagonists, though, is that, like, Rey's parents are set up as a mystery that the audience is supposed to care about, but it fails. Luke's father was never set up as, oh, who is Luke's father? It's set up as, oh, yeah, people knew who Luke's father was. Luke's father is dead. That's all there is to it. I mean, there's backstory there, but it's not a mystery. And that's what's great about the original trilogy, is because that is such a huge plot point, but it's not beating you over the head like a gigantic sledgehammer.
Yeah, we cared about the twist because we cared about Luke. The new movies are trying to set us up, like, thinking that we're going to be on the edge of our seats about Rey or her parents or whatever.
You care more about a potential twist than the character.
I mean, that's the thing. Is, like, did you really, like, in the original movies? Like,
I definitely did.
I cared more about, like, Han Solo. After the second movie, I cared. You know, like, there's a lot of other characters that I like more than Luke. You know, like, yeah, he kind of tied in, like, the other, you know, characters, but I think that the supporting characters made the movie so much better.
I think there's a lot of good point, though, and that's something that I've been thinking about for a minute. Is I'm looking forward to watching The Force Awakens with kind of the hindsight or in light of The Last Jedi. Because I think you raised a good point where, I mean, for all we know, The Last Jedi could put a lot of things that seemed murky or ambiguous or frustrating about The Force Awakens into a light which now they're not. Now it's a lot clearer. Oh, I understand where this was going. Oh, now we know why Rey is as good at everything as she seems to be. You know, some sort of like mysterious loci of the Force or something like that, right? So, well, there's a lot of stuff about The Force Awakens which really frustrates the hell out of me. I don't want judgment until episode 9. But for right now, I'll just say that I'm kind of dissatisfied and cautiously hopeful.
Hopefully, I agree. Hopefully The Last Jedi does mop up some things. But I would also like to take this opportunity. Mark just joined in, and he hasn't talked yet, so I'd like to get him some speaking time right now.
You're talking about Rob, aka No Pants.
Rob, yeah, I don't know why I said. Oh, hi, Mark. That's probably it. Yeah. God,
That's Ed's name.
that movie ruined me. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that movie was great, and everyone can check it out on the Geekcast YouTube page.
Is this microphone coming at all?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's got a very soft, fuzzy tone.
Oh, good.
So, do you think Star Wars nowadays is shit? And when did it start getting shit?
Well, I guess, and I don't mean to totally derail this into a discussion about something else, but I don't think necessarily Star Wars is shit. I think the world is shit. If that makes any sense, because I don't know about you guys. You know, when I first saw Star Wars, I was a tiny, ignorant, impressionable child, and I didn't even know who made the movies. I just knew they were Star Wars movies, and I liked everything about them. Now I know everything I don't want to know about the people who make them, the people who were in them, the production companies that put them out, and those things, because I'm a cynical douchebag, can ruin a movie for me real fast.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, that's part of the reason why The Force Awakens was ruined for me, because I never thought I would say this, but George Lucas's script was effing amazing.
I don't know. A lot of stuff got cut out of George Lucas's script. Or are you talking about like
George Lucas's script for Episode 7.
Oh,
That was effing amazing. And then Kathleen Kennedy was all like, "Nah, bro."
yeah. I'm sure whatever his suggestion was insane, and probably wouldn't have worked.
No, the suggestion that he made was great because it was basically going to be a race between the remnants of the Empire and then the main characters, which at the time were Sam and some female named character, but Sam was a stormtrooper defector who had a much more reasonable backstory than Finn. But they were racing against the remnants of the Empire to find the map for Luke Skywalker. It wasn't a map that was halfway made, and then thanks to R2D2 Ex Machina is completed. But yeah, basically they have to like scuba dive into the Emperor's throne room, which is like the remnants of that are like on like are in the ocean of the Forest Moon of Endor. Like there's a whole lot of cool things in that script.
Oh no, more fucking Gungan scenes. You know, it's like, yeah, and to go underwater, they have to meet like a cartoon rabbit.
Well, no, not at all. They just have to scuba dive into like, you know, the ruins of the Emperor's throne room, which I think is really cool.
Like, where's the boring political talk? How could this be a George Lucas movie without a bunch of like a really dry boardroom talk. It's cut in between action scenes.
Well, there's something too, right? Like, if we can kind of divest our attention away from the new movies, and let's take a look at the prequels, right? The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. I I think there's almost near universal consensus that all three of those movies are a hot mess in one way or another. I personally think Revenge of the Sith is the strongest of the three, but it's still got its problems.
I think that they were okay movies, just plagued by subpar acting.
Yeah.
We all know
acting's
that
relatively fine.
we all know that Attack of the Clones is the strongest because of that beautiful monologue about sand.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
rough.
Let's just forget that, please.
Of course.
Honestly,
That's the best part of that movie.
what would have really sold me though is because that scene comes across as genuinely creepy, and instead of having Anakin be a Frank Castle-esque character who just snaps because everything is taken away from him, I think it would have been really cool to actually embrace that and double down on like the creepiness and make Anakin an obsessive sort of possessive personality, because that would have made more sense to me as a character doing a downward spiral into becoming the most ruthless evil person aside from the Emperor.
Isn't that
Well,
kind
you know
of
what's
what it
funny
is?
about Attack of the Clones is I went and watched it one day, and I just cut through any and every scene involving Natalie Portman and Anakin Skywalker. And when you do that, it actually becomes a fairly decent space fantasy noir film where you have Obi-Wan Kenobi crossing the galaxy trying to solve the mystery of the assassins and the clone army and everything else like that.
A nest
Granted,
of
there's
Gundams.
continuity issues that crop up, but aside from that, it's fairly decent.
If you cut out the Natalie Portman stuff, then it's just a bunch of action scenes. And the reason I hated Clone Wars or Attack the Clones, not Clone Wars. I never watched the cartoon. I hated Attack the Clones for a bunch of different reasons, but the main reason I hated Revenge of the Sith is because the spectacle is so boring. It's like, I play video games. Like, I've seen all this shit. Like the worst scene in my mind, the worst scene in Star Wars history is Obi-Wan Kenobi riding a giant lizard, chasing a robot in a hamster wheel.
Again, that's one of those Star Wars movies, just like The Force Awakens, that was great maybe the first 30 minutes. Just that whole mission with Anakin and Obi-Wan, I mean, dude, I remember going to see that in theaters. And holy shit, that space battle scene was awesome. I really enjoyed watching Obi-Wan and Anakin as friends, cracking jokes, killing robots together. That was fun, man. That was a lot of fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so tensionless.
Well, it was tensionless, but you get the sense that the tension in there is not the danger that the Jedi, because they're Jedi Knights. We've been watching him cut through battle droids like nothing to the first two films. The tension there is with Anakin's struggle with his aggression and dealing with Count Dooku and possibly having to leave Obi-Wan behind. There's the tension there, and I think it was poorly executed. And I don't know if it was the editing, the direction, or what, but it kind of fell a little flat.
It was the
I have to
script,
say-
because his motivations don't make any sense.
I have to say though, I really want to give a handshake to whoever was working sound design for that scene though, because just that part when Palpatine just you hear the Emperor voice slip out and he goes, "Do it," and then just he does the scissors, but you hear that snap, and then it's just a brief moment of silence. Even though it's a bad movie, that scene still gives me it gets the hairs standing up on my arms. Just the way the sound design is right there, that's a nice catalyst or a nice turning point right there.
They killed Christopher Lee, you bastards.
I don't know, Sokka. What do you think about the prequels?
like I said, I don't think they're terrible movies. I think they're just plagued by like a couple really bad elements, too heavy reliance on CGI, um, poor casting for some of the more essential roles, things like that. I think that those were a problem. Other than that, I mean, as kind of setting a framework for the story, I thought they did pretty good. And even though Hayden Christensen was not the greatest at the whole Anakin Skywalker, the kid that played Anakin in the first movie was even worse. So I don't know.
Well, like, here's the thing though. Hayden Christensen, when you watch him in other movies, he's actually good.
Yeah, I don't think he's bad in the movies. It's the fucking script that sucks.
Yeah, it's the same problem as Finn Jones, the gay knight from Game of Thrones, when he was cast as Iron Fist. Everybody's all like, oh, he's the worst actor ever. No, he's not a bad actor. It's just the writers for Iron Fist are a bunch of incompetent idiots.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, my problem with the prequel trilogy is definitely the acting. That's the biggest standout. Just everybody delivered their lines like they were just now reading them for the first time.
I tend to agree. There are two things though about the acting that really stuck out to me, and one was Ian McDermott. Every scene he touched was solid gold, at least from his performance, anyway.
The second actor is Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor, and the way he captured Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially in Revenge of the Sith, like the way he would stroke his beard, or the hello there.
He's actually related to the actor who played Wedge Antilles, right?
Yeah, Dennis Lawson, who played Wedge Antilles, Luke's wingman, and then later Lando's wingman in Return of the Jedi. He's his uncle.
Yeah, the best actor in any of the prequels is definitely Ian McDermott, and then right behind him is Liam Neeson, just because it's funny to see a drunk guy in a Star Wars movie.
I really, God, I really loved Ian McDermott in the original. In the prequel trilogy. Like, that guy just had such a blast doing it.
He could even create life.
Like, I love silly voice when he's telling the story of Darth Plagueis. He's like, it's ironic. He could save others from dying, but not himself. And like, oh wow, he really hates that dude.
Here's one question that I have for you. Speaking of which, like, the new canon states that, like, because like the old expanded universe canon, it stated that, you know, he killed Darth Plagueis before the Phantom Menace, which makes sense. In the new canon, apparently, Palpatine, who's now Sheev Palpatine, which sounds weird, he murdered Darth Plagueis at the end of the Phantom Menace when he got elected Supreme Chancellor.
Yes, and it's a damn good book. You should read it.
But, like, that's so weird because he intentionally broke the rule of two, which he later on enforced in the Clone Wars show, and it really bothers me, man.
Well, here's the thing about it too, right? And that kind of pissed me off, is they kind of like retconned Darth Maul's importance out of the original movies. But the idea was that Palpatine had been planning to usurp and kill Darth Plagueis all through the Phantom Menace. And Darth Maul, he had trained Darth Maul, telling Darth Plagueis that he was just going to be trained as a Sith assassin, when in reality he really was his apprentice, and he was just waiting for the right time to spring it on him. So he kind of hid his plans to kill his master in plain sight, which strikes me as very much a thing that Palpatine would do. So that got a little golf clap from me.
I can dig it. Still, it just, I don't know.
By the way, if you guys like to read Star Wars novels, I highly recommend the book Darth Plagueis. It's an excellent read, especially if you enjoyed the Darth Bane novels, you'll enjoy Darth Plagueis because it kind of it continues along that whole rule of two thing.
Darth Plagueis was a good read. Plus, I enjoyed seeing a Sith Lord as an alcoholic. That was a pretty cool character.
So he was like Dr. Feelgood, your character.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's walk it back a little bit more then. Before The Force Awakens and before The Phantom Menace, there was Star Wars Special Edition. Is this where Star Wars started to go a little stale or started to spiral out of control, or do we think it happened before that?
No.
Or do we think that Special Edition was just fine and things went wrong with The Phantom Menace?
Special Edition, I don't really... Special Edition, I don't really care about one way or another. The thing that bothers me, though, is, again, I'm kind of an amateur film student. I would really like to have a copy of the original just because it has a historical value to me. So getting rid of the original bothers me, but updating something, that's fine so long as you respect the legacy of what you're updating. Because it's such an important milestone. In fact, it's what got James Cameron into film, for God's sake. Without Star Wars, we wouldn't have Terminator.
Does anybody in here hate the Blade Runner Special Edition?
Which one's the Special Edition? There's like 6 versions of...
It's the non-monologued version of Blade Runner. The director's cut.
Huh.
No, I actually have that version on Blu-ray, and it put in a deleted scene that's A, Ridley Scott enjoyed, and B, it took away the ending, which was nothing but B-roll recycled from The Shining.
I really got no feelings on different versions of Blade Runner. But I will agree that the Star Wars Special Editions are shit. Mostly because they fuck with the pacing, they add stuff that's not necessary, it muddies up the screen, and the effects look terrible. Like, because wasn't it the Special Edition that introduced the big giraffe thing that walks in front of the camera when they enter Mos Eisley?
Yeah, that big
Whatever.
Scaly ass.
Yeah, that... I think... that's just as bad as having Greedo shoot first, or at all rather.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because that is the worst thing. It's like every time I've torrented a copy of Star Wars, because we're not allowed to legally buy the real fucking movie unless you go to a library, like sale, and get one of like the Fox home release ones that aren't even widescreen, what have you. But like, you're watching a shitty version when it pans down to Tatooine and you see all the CG dewback lizards and you go, oh fuck. And then they get into also Obi-Wan's crate dragon scream is all weird and different and doesn't really make any sense. Just that whoop. Speaking of the... It's not appropriate.
Speaking of the Who Shot First thing, though, like, oh god, when The Force Awakens was going into its press release tour or whatnot, I saw some amazing legend did a montage of every interviewer asking Harrison Ford who shot first, and there's at least 10 of them. They're like, who shot first? And it's always the same. He's all like, I don't know, and I don't care.
Yeah, he is. He sees it as a job.
Well, here's one uncontroversial statement. that I think every panelist and viewer can agree with, and that is Han shot first.
Yeah, because if he didn't, then he'd be a different character. Like, it's like that's. It's like the edits don't make any sense. They're unnecessary. They distract you, and they fuck up the story. Because what makes Han Solo, and because he was always my favorite character as a kid, what made him appealing is that he's
not Luke. Sorry.
I still like Luke. I still care about his plight.
Whatever.
He's a good boy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I love the gay robots.
That's cool.
Everyone.
Luke is my favorite character, so.
Yeah. But Harrison Ford was always my favorite. And he is a scoundrel. He's a mean secondary character. He's the Knuckles the Echidna to your Sonic the Hedgehog.
Han Solo is like the Captain Jack Sparrow of the Star Wars franchise. He's awesome as a side character. When you put him in the spotlight, he loses the gravitas.
Yeah, and then the way they introduce him is that he's a drug dealer. Like his ship is full of contraband. That's why he's got the little compartment in his floor. You know, he's a intergalactic drug dealer with a giant dog and an illegally modified ship. And it's like you're telling me he only kills people in self-defense situations that don't make any sense. And then the special edition, they fucked up that scene. But then they made you listen to the same spiel about him owing Jabba the Hutt money in a scene that contributes nothing.
I love that like weird ass movement. It's like not even natural. I can't even go that far.
Yeah, there's that thing, and then there's when he digitally walks over Jabba the Hutt's tail, and it goes like rip, rip, rip. You know, it's because in the
they filmed that before they realized Jabba the Hutt was going to be a space alien.
Yeah, originally he's a Scottish guy. Han, my boy, like you're the best. As
One
opposed
thing
to
about
Han's okay.
is the scene with Luke and Biggs right before they take off to go destroy the Death Star. I think that was probably my favorite edit in all three films.
Or wait, could you repeat that? Jim, you're muted. Yeah. Never mind, I guess. So who's here? What did he say was his favorite edit?
Something about the Death Star.
The part where Luke and Biggs are like chatting before they go blow up the Death Star.
Okay. Is he talking about when they chat like on the ground, or when they're chatting when they're like in the air, like Luke, do you think you'll be able to pull out in time? It would be just like Baker's Canyon back home.
Yeah, Baker's Canyon. It'll be just like my sister.
Giggity. God.
But I will agree that the Death Star has one of the greatest edits in movie history, and that is the edit of the approaching the exhaust port with the torpedo. I was going to say proton, photon. Which one's Star Trek?
Proton. Torpedo is Star Wars. Photon is Star Trek.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. The approaching with the proton torpedo, and it's like
just the whole like stand by.
Yeah. You have the countdown, and the way that the music swells with the dun 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 dun.
And then you just got Peter Cushing going.
Peter Cushing, I'll always love you. Leave. What's it like? We flee now at our moment of triumph. But
I think you overestimate their chances.
yeah, but like the best bit of acting in that movie is the way Mark Hamill shows the tension and release.
That gasp, the gah.
Yeah, that's it. Because it's like it's not what like I'm an animator. I'm just like thinking of the way one of us would act it out is kind of like a because that's supposed to be the tension release, but it's not. He was holding his breath the entire time. He was holding his breath for like 3 minutes, and then that it's like that is so virtuosic, perfect.
That was good, man. I'm just really glad that they took away Luke's reply when he's like, "Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million," because it was originally supposed to go to him going, "Great, now let's get out of here before that thing goes supernova."
Yeah, that's George. That's why you have editors.
Yes.
The people he got rid of.
We haven't heard from the other panelists in a while. Rob, Saka, what do you guys think of Special Edition? Yay or nay? What'd you like? What didn't you like?
Well, it's no Caravan of Courage, but it's still pretty good.
Caravan of Courage. That's undoubtedly the best Star Wars related movie ever, right?
It's no holiday special.
It's probably about 10 times 10 times better than the Battle of Endor.
I disagree. The animated C-3PO and R2-D2 series is a masterpiece.
What?
The ambiguously gay robot series?
Yes.
Ambiguous.
Yes.
Do you guys think that the Special Edition helped or hurt the Star Wars franchise in any way?
Okay, so I think that it did both. Okay, and in a way, it's really hard to explain. It's also one of the reasons why I'm okay with Disney making the movies now, is that I like Star Wars. Obviously, I mean, I like Star Wars even enough that I can overlook its faults, and it has a shit ton of faults. Let's be honest. And it's not just the movies. I mean, I've liked the extended universe and the video games. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic is an amazing game. I mean, I played Star Wars Galaxies back in the day. I did all this stuff. It was, and I loved it because there is kind of a cool backstory to it. And even if they change some of the canon, the overall universe itself is still amazing. So I like that, and I appreciate that stuff. And the special editions were bad in the sense that they added stuff that wasn't needed, and that should have been the time that Lucas should have come out and started thinking about the prequels or Episode 7 and started making the movies then. But he held on to it for so long. I would rather it you take a look at what like Disney does with like the Marvel series now, like all the superhero movies, and there's a fucking ton of them. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. But on the most part, I think I kind of enjoy them. And I would rather have, relatively enjoyable Star Wars movies, coming out from, Disney every year than have to sit back and wait, 15, 20 years to see another, extension to the Star Wars story. Because I really don't care what they do as long as they put in that universe. And so for the special edition, I think that it was good for, reminding people, there's this great series. But I think that what they should have done is, picked it up and kept on going with it back then.
What about you, Rob?
Well, I guess kind of like what Seamus was saying, it's like special editions are what we got. Unless you're going to raid your grandparents' house for VHS tapes and still not have anything to play them on, you're kind of just stuck with them. And, a lot of the edits were bad, and some of like the sound improvements were good, and I don't know. It's not something you're going to make yourself happy thinking about, so you may as well just kind of deal with what you got.
Or the original special edition came out on VHS, right? Like in that gold box.
My folks have them, yeah.
Yeah, because at the time I still had my actual Star Wars box set. So it's like when the special edition came out, like I didn't even notice. It was years later when VHSs were destroyed in a flood, and we got the DVD, which are the special edition. That's when I noticed weird stuff happening. thing.
Jim, weren't you the one who bought the VHS box set of the original trilogy growing up?
No, I bought the special edition VHS as a Christmas gift to the whole family.
Yeah,
which was really just to myself.
Yeah, you fucking Krampus.
But yeah, you were the one who bought that.
Yeah. Because, like Rob and Seamus said, it was what we had. If I had a choice, I would have gone back and bought the ones with like the half face or the half portraits of Stormtrooper and Luke and Vader.
I wasn't calling you out for getting the wrong Star Wars, whatever. I was just trying to figure out who to blame for my effing obsession with Darth Vader and Wookiees. And now I know that you're. Now I know you're the culprit. In fact, now that I think about it, you're the one who recorded it on VHS when it was on like a TBS marathon, the entire trilogy. Yeah.
Did it play on CBS or Fox?
Yeah.
Because I had those tapes.
That was the first time I ever saw Star Wars, by the way. It was taped from cable. Now, boys and girls, before we could download stuff illegally on the internet, we had to work for our bootlegs. And this was a whole process. But my brother was that guy who was all like, if I'm gonna be a geek, then my little brother is gonna suffer in my footsteps. And suffer I did.
Nothing beats a pre-digital bootleg.
The first time that I saw Star Wars was out at my parents' friend's cabin, and I watched it on Laserdisc. And it was also the original version. It was also the first time I've ever seen the Laserdisc too, Laserdisc players. So it was like a 200 that weekend.
I think that watching a Star Wars movie on Laserdisc gives you so much more nerd credibility.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much Star Wars OG at this point there, Sokka.
Yeah. Though if you watch if you watch the highest quality, like the one that you torrent that's like the real Star Wars, that's the Laserdisc rip. Because that was like the best quality one that wasn't edited.
Yeah, in fact, I think, Jim, again, you, some acquaintance of yours had like a Laserdisc rip of Revenge of the Jedi. Because it was Revenge of the Jedi before it was Return of the Jedi.
And that's how we bloody well liked it.
Yeah. Because Revenge sounded too aggressive. But yeah, I remember seeing that version and I was like, where the hell is that giant desert frog that had absolutely no bearing on the plot, but it was in there?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that dude. Well, I'm not sure if Special Edition is when Star Wars started to radically change and everybody started noticing the big problems that you could probably drive a truck through.
It's when they started noticing them. Star Wars had problems.
I think we could forgive it for having problems, right? Like, it's kind of like dating a really cute girl that just has some personality quirks that you don't like. You can forgive her for it because she's cute and she's really fun to be around.
Yeah, and she's your first.
Yeah. It's not until later on when things really change and you realize that she's psycho and has awful dialogue about sand.
You realize she's Hayden Christensen.
I think that where it started ending for me, though, is when the trilogy ended, and then we got stuff like the Droid Saga, where it was that poorly animated C-3PO and R2-D2 series, and then, of course, the Caravan of Courage.
Well, I mean, granted, there were some pretty ridiculous tie-ins, but when you go and you look at the other elements of the expanded universe, like the novels, right? Like Heir to the Empire was fantastic. The games, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, iconic, right? Knights of the Old Republic, great.
Yeah, if we're going to go back to like the first time it sold out and got stupid, we're going to have to go back to Christmas 1978.
Does anybody here remember Shadows of the Empire?
No, I don't. But being a good co-host, I did some research and I realized that it was LucasArts trying to capitalize on the GoldenEye first-person shooter type of video game.
I've played Dark Forces a lot.
Dark Forces, yeah, there's another great one.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I know.
Before it was called Jedi Knight.
Jedi Knight was the sequel, I believe, to Dark Forces.
Jedi Knight was the beginning of the Kyle Katarn story arc, right?
Yeah.
No, Dark Forces was the beginning of the Kyle Katarn storyline.
Yeah, the Dark Forces was the beginning, but he didn't have Force powers until Jedi Knight. Okay.
Mysteries of the Sith.
Which I actually remember pissing me off at the time, because I liked Kyle because he wasn't a Jedi. He was just that scruffy dude who was willing to do everything that nobody else wanted to do.
He's a knockoff, good-natured Han Solo.
He was what I wanted. What's his face from Rogue One? Jin's counterpart, Cassian. He's what I wanted Cassian to be, right? Like the dirty jobs guy, who doesn't mind going and killing that good guy just because it helps the rebellion. Like he will murder a perfectly innocent guy to further the rebellion's goals. That's what Kyle was, and that's why I liked Kyle, and that's what pissed me off about making Kyle a Jedi Knight.
But that's all replaced by "This is a rebellion, and I rebel."
That was cut from the movie, though. Like that was just from the trailer.
Thank God that was cut from the movie. No, like a lot of shit was cut and then reshot.
What the hell was that line? Was that was that supposed to be in Rogue One?
Yeah, that was in the trailer. Like basically they took the rough cut and they took everything that didn't make it into the theatrical cut and put it in the trailer. So when I went to see the movie, I was like, "Aw."
Oh, he didn't say the rebel line.
No, I was so relieved. I was so relieved she didn't say that. Like, this is a rebellion, and I rebel. You got daddy issues, sweetheart? Jesus.
What?
How come they're making the good guys British now? Usually that was...
I like my Star Wars where bad guys have British accents, because this is America, baby.
Yeah, and the good guys are American and Jewish.
Except for Obi-Wan, and who is British, and Darth Vader, who is American.
Yeah.
But, Obi-Wan, it doesn't count because Obi-Wan died and Darth Vader's a cyborg. And when you took his mask off, he had a weird hybrid British accent because he is a British actor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
well, it just the respirator makes him sound American, I guess, right?
yeah, exactly. Because, it was made in China and everything made in China has to be Americanized. I don't know. That was a bad joke.
Yeah, but the way I like my Star Wars when it was a simple, fantasy about a comic book nerd and a couple gay robots and a drug dealer and his giant pet dog and a Jewish American princess going against a black man and an iron lung and trying to blow up some giant space egg.
So
You're getting dangerously close to that rant from Chasing Amy.
what James is saying is that his favorite thing about Star Wars is Spaceballs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Or fucking, oh man, that first movie, so perfect. I don't really care for the other ones. I don't even really like Empire. But it's like, I like Star Wars when it's dusty, where the Force does not allow you to do video game shit, where it's a vaguely defined kind of spiritual thing that you're not really sure if it has any effect on people.
Where it's not a viral infection.
Yeah, where it's not a thing that's like in your blood or in your family line. Oh, nice horn. So, yeah. You're drinking that nowadays? Or is that just for Rosh Hashanah?
No, I've been drinking out of it because it's Thor's Day, so, let's get hammered.
All right.
So here's one for you guys, and some of the older audience members or panelists might remember this one. Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
What I remember from that is the bad guy had a really bullshit rank that just made absolutely no sense. It was like director, supervisor, so and so.
Super. As assistant manager.
It was like a bullshit corporate rank, director, supervisor, and then when Luke and Leia escaped him, they're like, "We have bad news. You'll never sweat out of your right arm again." Like, oh. Well, that's it. You could have disfigured me a little bit more, guys. Come on.
I mean, Rob and Saka, you guys remember that one, right?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Really? Okay, so for those of you who aren't aware, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, here's a little bit of background, right? Just before they released the first Star Wars movie in theaters, George Lucas got Alan Dean Foster to ghostwrite Star Wars: The Adventures of Luke Skywalker as a novel, and released it just before the movie was out, and it sold pretty well or whatever. Right after that, Foster wrote another novel called Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was a follow-up to what we all know now as A New Hope. And this was the original sequel that Lucas had planned. He didn't have any high expectations for the movie. He just wanted to get it out there. So he was going to continue it with a couple of books, and Splinter of the Mind's Eye was the first one. It was a very bizarre story. You can more or less find a really good synopsis of it on YouTube. There's a couple different channels that go through it. But basically, Leia...
The best synopsis is Mr. Sunday movies.
Yeah. Well, Leia and Luke are on their way on a special mission, crash landing on a swamp world with a big Imperial mining operation. And while they're there trying to get off, they run into this old woman who used to be a Jedi Knight, who knows of, I don't even remember what it's called now. It's some sort of,
the Bogan crystal or some shit.
No, yeah, it was something like Boda or something like that. It was this crystal that would magnify a user's force powers and allow them to do the video game stuff that Seamus was talking about. And Darth Vader ends up coming to the planet to look for the exact same thing. And they have this battle, and the only way they're able to defeat Darth Vader is by getting hold of this force crystal and then using it to defeat him. He runs away to lick his wounds, and it spends all its energy, and they go back to the rebellion.
My favorite part of that, though, is when Luke is fighting Darth Vader in there, and Luke throws a rock at Darth Vader. Vader cuts it in half, and then he throws a rock at Luke, and then Luke cuts it in half, and Vader says, "Oh, yes, your lightsaber skills are just as impressive as mine, but my rock is bigger."
I refuse to believe that this is an actual thing.
It's a thing. You can go to like any bookstore and find it. It's there.
It's effing amazing. There's actually one part where like this director supervisor so-and-so says, "Hey, Lord Vader, I just captured this miner guy and this chick who looks exactly like Princess Leia. You might want to come down here and take a look." And Vader's all like, "Right, I'll be right there. Just don't screw this up, man." And of course, this guy screws it up.
Yeah, it's a good piece of nostalgia. Although when you read it, you'll be very happy because you'll be thinking to yourself, well, none of this ever happened.
Oh shit! This is what we have to blame for the Ewok subplot, because Luke Skywalker becomes the chief of some indigenous tribe because they think he's a god or some shit with his force powers. This is what we have to blame for C-3PO becoming Dennis, the Golden God.
You know what? At this point, I just want to hear more about Assistant Night Manager Corey. You know,
he was a very interesting character. I think he embodied everything that the Imperial officer was supposed to be. A very refined sense of manners and self-importance, suffering greatly from the Dunning-Kruger effect, and bucking for promotion to get out of his miserable posting. Like, he was the quintessential Imperial officer.
I just want to know, what was his rank? What does that mean? Director supervisor?
Was it director supervisor or was it director controller?
Supervisor was somewhere in there, so maybe it was controller supervisor, which is even more weird.
It might have been controller supervisor.
That's like a bizarre level of Bill Lumberg micromanaging right there.
Or it just sounds like he works at a TV station, like in the hub.
It's even more confusing than trying to figure out what Moff and Grand Moff actually do.
It's like controller supervisor is like, I'm picturing the most passive aggressive guy you could ever meet in your life. Like, yeah, if you could like mop up, man.
I like the going to the Moff thing. I never understood that because they do have like ranks like admiral and stuff like that inside it. So those are pretty high. What the fuck's a Moff?
Well,
It's simple.
A lot of the expanded universe material to find that out. But basically, a Moff is a territorial governor. Here's
the thing, though. They explain it in the film. Princess Leia addresses him as Governor Tarkin. I thought I smelled your foul stench when I was brought on board.
They do, but he's never referred to in the film as Grand Moff Tarkin.
That's enough explanation right there.
So basically, the way it goes is like Moffs are sector, like you have your planetary governors, your Moffs are sector governors, and then your Grand Moffs are your regional governors, and basically the Grand Moffs report directly to the Emperor. And when you look at it, it was actually Tarkin who came up with the whole idea, put it into play, and got himself appointed as the Grand Moff of the most important political region of the Star Wars galaxy, and then convinced the Emperor to dissolve the Senate.
By the way, have you read the new Tarkin book?
Grand Moff Tarkin wasn't nearly as cool after Rogue One.
What,
The new
after they turned him into a creepy CG Uncanny Valley monster?
No, the Tarkin book was actually pretty cool, though. There was actually one part where it shows just kind of how diehard this guy is for the Emperor. There's a peaceful protest on one planet, so literally he just landed his Star Destroyer on top of the protesters, smushing them.
That's legit.
Tarkin did nothing wrong.
Does anybody watch Star Wars Rebels?
Yes,
Occasionally.
I've got an 8-year-old.
Say what?
I said, yeah, I do. I have an 8-year-old.
What do you think of it?
I find some of it's okay, but I don't like the what the hell's her name? The teen girl, like the embodiment of a teenage girl inside of the Star Wars universe, just fucking irks me for some reason.
Sabine?
Yeah. Oh, that Mandalorian graffiti artist.
Yeah, I hate that. I really do. I know they try to make it more like, Disney Channel kid friendly type thing, but the like hot pink, crazy haired, like mercenary with attitude type thing just kind of bothers me for some reason.
Warping
One thing I do like about it, though,
different universe
is the art department, I think, should be commended because they took all of Ralph McQuarrie's original sketches and implemented them as all the set dressings or all the settings. Like the city where the main character Ezra grows up was and his planet were all concept art for Alderaan, which I thought was really cool.
I will say though, like what made that show worth it to me was watching the clip of Darth Vader ambiguously killing Ahsoka Tano.
Yes. Well, I like that they brought Darth Maul back.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I also liked Darth Maul's death scene. That was actually really satisfying for me.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, wow. Darth Maul dies for the second time.
Well, the third time, but yeah.
Oh, he'll be back someday.
This time he'll just be a head on top of a battle droid skeleton.
Oh, that's coming. And he'll have 6 lightsabers.
I mean, like,
and
what else does he have to live for? They already took his dick away from him in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the appeal of any of this shit. Darth Maul I view as being a non-character. He was just a monster.
He's a dickless character. He's basically Grey Worm now that I think of it.
Well, they turned him into a pretty decent character in the Clone Wars or TV series.
What really turned me off though is like I had a lot of goodwill when they like did that nice sort of character piece with Darth Maul, and you know he's the old master. And then when he's like, he has that laugh, he goes, "Oh, this is great fun." I'm like, "Yeah, cool. I'm getting a jolly murderous Darth Maul." And then the Inquisitors use their fucking lightsabers as like helicopter blades to fly away. I was like, "No thanks, man."
Yeah, helicopter lightsabers were kind of dumb. But I think Rebels was actually a pretty decent series, regardless of some of the cheese.
Don't you get sick of all the fucking lightsabers in Star Wars?
Well, the thing is with Rebels, the only they had a Jedi crew member. He was a Padawan at the time of the Purge, so he didn't use the Force like Obi-Wan and Anakin did.
Oh, that's weird. Say, Sam, you notice how everyone dropped out?
Yeah, I do. I would like to take this opportunity to make a plug for Netflix's The Punisher. I am really excited to see Frank Castle shoot some degenerates in the face.
Sorry about that. That's a phone glitch. I will be right back.
Yeah, and I will take this moment to plug this conversation by the Geekcast is sponsored by the same people as last time. Spicebox Whiskey and Jarum Blacks. If you want to be as healthy and good looking as any of us, Canadian rye and cigaros with 5 times the tar of the average cigarette.
I have not had a clove in like 15 years.
Well, it's time to have one because they're pretty damn good.
It might be. It might be.
It's fucking hard to find these things. It's like you can't just get them at a regular package store or whatever. You have to go to like cigar shops and then maybe they'll have it. Or
Yeah, you got
Rob,
to ask the Egyptian guy at your local smoke shop.
yeah.
Rob, you sound like a fucking cyborg.
Do I? I'm trying my other Bluetooth headset this time, and I guess it's not working so well.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Or it sounds like you're broadcasting from the inside of like a 90s PC game.
you sound kind of like an EP from a Norwegian black metal band.
I kind of dig that. I've been getting into Witch House lately, so I dig it.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Or maybe a bit like the Skype, the FaceTiming, whatever you want to call it, the video chat that's in the first Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
It's like 1 frame every 6 seconds.
Man, how does everybody feel about going back to Star Wars? How does everybody feel about Spaceballs as an adequate parody?
I think it's lame because I think all of that. I think parody movies in general are fucking lame. It's like the only one that's okay is Airplane. I think that's really it.
You don't like, say, Robin Hood Men in Tights or Young Frankenstein?
No, not really any of that. No Hot Shots. Like, because it's, or any of those fucking Mel Brooks and Blazing Saddles is okay because Blazing Saddles does more with it. It subverts it, and Blazing Saddles succeeds, and I think Airplane succeed because they go beyond the conventions.
Blazing Saddles was Mel Brooks's attempt to offend and literally everyone.
As it's anybody made something instantly quotable, so you can't resist
But you can't
bringing it up
quote it.
again and again.
You can't quote Blazing Saddles without just people just staring at you weird. Like because everything just sounds so racist out of context.
And in context.
In context, yeah.
Yeah. You know, they have lines like they have the line where they're taking applications from criminals, and it's just like what are your charges? Let's see, what's it like? Arson, rape, murder, rape. Put rape twice. I like rape. Charming.
My favorite part of that movie, though, is when Gene Wilder is all like, "Oh, boys, look what I found." And the sheriff pops up. Where the white woman at?
A man drink like that and don't eat is gonna die.
Yeah.
Or, but my favorite part is when they invade like Golden Age Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's like
The climax, yeah.
throw up your hands, stick out your tush, hands on your hips, give them a push. Next thing you know, you're doing the French mistake. Voila!
One of the reasons I married my wife is because we can't go anywhere near a toll booth without her looking at me and going, "Someone's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes."
No. Every time.
I'm going to bring this conversation back to Star Wars, though, and I'm going to say, for me, the beginning of the end for Star Wars in general started in the expanded universe with the Dark Empire.
You know what? We can't be friends anymore because Dark Empire was fan-friggin-tastic.
I did not like it, because Luke Skywalker confronted that demon and he overcame it in Return of the Jedi. So revisiting that really cheapens the ending of the original trilogy for me. And having him succumb to the dark side just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it's the problem that I do have with Star Wars in general is also one of the reasons I really like KOTOR too, is the whole idea of, oh, it's never over. The Red Letter Media guys, Rich Evans, pointed out something so poignant. He said the dirty little secret of Star Wars is that it's a tiny, small little universe that you can't do much with. If you take out the stormtroopers, if you take out the Force and the lightsabers, then it's not really Star Wars anymore. You can only tell that one story. There's only that small handful of iconic, hero with 1,000 faces characters. And so you just, it's like, so what if Luke killed the Emperor? In the expanded universe and in the rest of the movies, there's always new Sith Lords. Who fucking cares? You'll never escape it. He hasn't accomplished anything.
That's why nobody ever liked Tales from the Cantina or Tales from the Empire, right?
I'm trying to think. What was in Tales from the Cantina? Can't remember.
It was a bunch of little shorts about characters from the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yeah, I just can't. I remember Tales from the Bounty Hunters, but it's like I remember literally none of the stories.
I really enjoyed.
I like those a lot.
I really enjoyed Dark Horse Comics' Star Wars tales, though.
Oh, like Legacy?
Kind of like, there was one comic that really stood out to me, and it was from the point of view of a stormtrooper, and it went back to when he visited a recruiter for the Empire. It showed how brutal the stormtrooper basic training was and the advanced infantry training was for the stormtrooper regime. And then it shows him standing in formation on board the Devastator. And Darth Vader looks at him and he says, "You go first." And it's this point that he keeps on going, like, the first person out never lives. The first person out never lives. Nobody cares about you if you're a stormtrooper. And then if you notice in A New Hope, the first stormtrooper out of there actually doesn't die. And then it's all like, oh my God, cool, this is great. I actually lived. This is amazing. And then he's all like, oh man, I am going to live now. I'm going to finish my enlistment. I'm going to get out there in the world. I'm going to do my thing. And then he stops and he sees this beautiful woman with two buns, with one bun on the side of her, on both sides of her head. And then she shoots him and kills him.
Oh.
I thought that was
Too bad.
I thought that was a really cool short story from the point of view that I've never seen before in Star Wars.
Yeah. Again, that was kind of the basis for like Rogue One. Like, we're gonna mix our high fantasy, 1940s serial thing with a gritty war movie. I guess it works in short form. Works in a video game.
I dug Rogue One, other than the fact that it basically retconned Kyle Katarn out.
Yeah.
Well, Rogue One actually, it upset me for one really big reason, and it like totally invalidated Princess Leia as a character, because you have the line from General Dodonna when he's briefing the pilots on there before their trench run on the Death Star, and he says, an analysis of the plans provided by Princess Leia. And then you go and watch Rogue One, and it's like, she didn't provide him with shit. She just happened to be on the spaceship, and somebody handed him to her, and she's like, all right, well, let's go. And she didn't even give the command to launch. It's just some random dude that escaped from Darth Vader's lightsaber porn and yells, launch!
I will.
And then you've got her little bullshit flimsy lie. It's like, I'm about being on a mercy mission when Darth Vader saw her launch away from the Rebel flagship on the Battle of Scarif. Like, that's stupid. Way to think on your feet there, princess.
Well, it does help keep little girls from making dangerous mistakes about what they're actually capable of.
I really did enjoy that lightsaber porn scene.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody did, and it like we like porn because it's fun to look at, but
And
it
I
still
think
leaves you feeling empty inside when you're done.
I think the thing that made me enjoy that even more was dubbing Gunnery Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket over that scene.
I mean, yeah, and it's fun, and it's a fun scene, and it's cool to watch Darth Vader be a badass, but still, like, Princess Leia kind of sucks now that Rogue One's out.
Fun fact, did you know that actually when they were filming that scene, Peter Jackson was in town, so he texted Gareth Edwards and goes, what's up, man? He says, hey, I'm filming a Darth Vader rampage. You want to come check it out? He goes, I will be right fucking there.
Why do people think Darth Vader's so fucking cool? He's just some asshole in a costume. Like, he's like crippled. He's pretty much on equal footing with old Sir Alec Guinness.
Because when you piss him off, he strangles you to death with magic.
I mean, Guinness was pretty cool.
He was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Darth Vader sounded like a large black man, so everybody was scared of him.
There's no blasters.
Old ass Sir Alec Guinness cut a guy's arm off because he wanted to start a bar fight.
Yeah, and it bled, and it was awesome.
You know what I love about that? The thing about that scene is that you really hardly even see the lightsaber. Like, it just comes out, cuts the dude's arms off, and it's gone again. Like in an instant. It's so good.
I love the thing I love the most about that scene, though, is Sir Alec Guinness. The way that he plays that is after he deactivates the lightsaber, he literally does a survey of the entire bar, and he goes, it's basically him going, who else wants some?
Y'all got arms, too.
That goes back to what just made...
Oh, there he goes. That's what happens when you try to do a fucking roundtable discussion from your car.
God damn it!
Is this a phone thing? Like, what the...
What the
Why is
F?
it booting everyone?
Yeah,
I've been totally comfortable in this podcast the whole time.
Yeah, just me and Sam hanging out.
Well,
This
for those
shit-
of you that don't know, Google Hangouts has this weird glitch where it will kick people joining on mobile devices for whatever reason. So if you're sitting there with an actual hard connection, like off of a desktop or a laptop, you're going to be solid. But if you're on a phone like I am, and I imagine
Me too.
Rob and Sokka are, then yeah, you're going to get kicked randomly.
Yeah. But I'll say that, like, the fanboy shit, I guess, is what ultimately killed Star Wars and is going to continue killing Star Wars, because, like, these new movies don't have any substance. It's just shit you've seen before. Lightsabers, the Millennium Falcon, TIE Fighters, Darth Vader. I've seen all this crap. You know, it's like I never saw the appeal of lightsabers. Like, it's as cool a concept as a laser rifle, I guess. You know, but it was more about the human drama. I get nothing out of seeing Darth Vader hack a bunch of people to death. I get as much as I get from seeing Liam Neeson hack up a bunch of defenseless robots.
You know what I do love about the new movies, though, is that, like, it takes the Force and you get, I guess, more Force-based religions. Like, you get that Donnie Yen character and his buddy. You get the Knights of Ren. You get some more stuff, so it's not just the Jedi and the Sith. That's what I do like. It's a nice expansion on that for me.
I think the other thing too is like with the fanboy stuff is that you're always going to have fanboys, and you're always going to have like the different levels of fanboys. You're going to have like the hipster, you know, like I like this before it was like cool type shit. And it's the way I approach it like is with people being, you know, complete fanboyish over the movies. You know, there's I like some of the stuff in the extended universe, but I would never say I'm like a huge diehard fan there. I'm more of like a, you know, comic book fan. So like in the same sense, like the Marvel Civil War series. I love that series. That's amazing. Completely destroyed it in the movie with the Captain America Civil War, which was the worst telling of the Civil War, you know, kind of saga that you could possibly imagine. I appreciate it for the, you know, for the movie it was, but I separate that from the, you know, the way that I like the comic books. I don't even put them in the same group. So
Civil War was Joe Quesada making a mess of things like he always does.
So you're talking about the comics?
Yeah, the comics. Joe Quesada is just, God, that guy.
I like the way that they approached it.
I kind of liked it.
But then again, you're also going to have people that, like, you know, Sam, who's going to make me feel like shit for liking Civil War. So it doesn't matter. Fuck all you. I'm going home.
I think that's the thing too. At the end of the day, right? We like what we like, and we like what we don't like.
I suppose so. I mean, again, Joe Quesada is one of those examples of having a cool concept and executing it really poorly near that.
Because, like me, I like Star Wars best when there aren't any Jedi involved, right? When it's smugglers and bounty hunters and, you know, X-wing battles in space. Like that's when I think Star Wars is at its strongest. That's always been my favorite element of it. But everybody seems to like Jedi.
One of my favorite kind of extended universe things was the Crimson. What was it? The Crimson Empire series from Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Which followed Imperial Guards, an Imperial Guard around.
Oh my God! Yeah, that was great. I think.
Well, you know what? Like talking about bad guys, right? One of the cooler expanded universe story arcs was one that actually Rob introduced me to, and that was the Black Fleet Crisis.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
With the Yavithans. I mean, there wasn't a single Jedi problem in that whole series.
Can we all agree though that the coolest Star Wars villain is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Yes, we can.
That guy didn't have a lick of force potential, but he was just so damn classy.
I like the. I'm a big fan of all the Old Republic stuff. I always thought that stuff was really cool.
Here's the issue with me for like the Old Republic era. I mean, like I really enjoy like Exar Kun and a lot of that era, and I really do enjoy the Emperor of the old Sith Empire and Darth Malgus and all of that. But when you get into characters that are just like so crazy overpowered, like Darth Nihilus, or who's that one guy who just exploded a star with his force abilities? That's when it just gets fucking ridiculous for me.
2 words, ladies and gentlemen. Darth Bane.
With the change in the canon, though, I am a little disappointed that we're not going to see Darth Talon around.
Darth Talon. That was after. That was Legacy, right?
Yeah,
that
she
was
was
Legacy.
under Darth Krait's rule of 1, correct?
Yeah.
Though you brought up Nihilus. I like Darth Nihilus because he's different. Like all of the villains in that game are so completely different, because what made KOTOR 2 so refreshing and different, and what made me go back and beat it 8 times under all sorts of different self-imposed weird restrictions, like making an Asian cyber ninja who didn't use the Force. Like, they are forces of nature, and like they're like they're not people. They're like the space where a person would be.
Darth Nihilus to me was just ridiculous, because like when you can consume an entire planet, just like what's gonna stop you, man? I mean, Darth Sion, to me, that was more believable to me, that the dark side corrupts you so much that you just can't fucking die.
Yeah, I mean, and KOTOR 2 is like the only bit of like Star Wars horror that's like ever worked.
Yeah,
because that's I mean, the first KOTOR is pretty creepy too, but in a weird kind of distant way. In that
I can
there's some. I always thought there was something creepy about the first KOTOR game.
I can get that. Yeah.
Like when you're doing your training on Dantooine, like Dantooine's a creepy place. It's like the music is like nice, and it's always sunset.
Yeah.
And it's like this is weird, because I don't know, maybe it's just that it's so immersive, and it's like you don't want to be immersed in that universe. The Star Wars universe is fucking scary.
What I really liked though is Darth Revan as a character. I really enjoy the idea of a split personality in the concept of the light side and the dark side of the Force. That's a really cool concept.
And how if you become an evil prick, you will grow a goatee.
Yes.
Or a Kublai Khan mustache or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guys, we've been running for about an hour and 45 minutes, so I want to start bringing this to a close. So let's go around the table and let's get some final statements in there. We'll start with Rob. What do you want? Anything you want to leave with the good for the good of the group?
Well, I think it's important not to be mega cynical about it all the time. It's really easy for me to be that way. But, the Star Wars movies that I grew so attached to, and the books that I read that I grew so attached to, they weren't perfect either. And like I've said, there's a lot of things I don't like about the prequel trilogy, and that I'm not liking about the stuff they're making now, but at the end of the day, would I rather have little kids into Star Wars or My Little Pony?
That's a very good point.
Was that rhetorical? Because I can answer.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. The correct answer was My Little Pony Star Wars crossover. Just let you know.
My goodness. I'm sure that exists.
Google,
holding
Google,
lightsabers.
Google Images right now, fan art.
No, it
Someday
really
I
does,
want
and
to
it's bad.
Saka, what about you? Any final words?
Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with the way they're going right now. They're never going to be the greatest movies out there, you know, but in some of them, some of the story, like, you know, yeah, you're right. The new, you know, Force Awakens and the Last Jedi. I don't know where they're going to go. I really don't care. I'm just going to be happy to see them. I'll take them for face value what they are. But what I'm really happy about now is the other stuff, the other extended universe stuff like they're doing now, like Rogue One and the new like Han Solo film that's going to be coming out, the prequel there. I'm looking forward to those kind of things because I like the universe. You know, I like the Star Wars universe, and the more stuff that we have in the Star Wars universe, regardless of whether it's good or bad or whatever, I'll just be happy knowing that stuff's out there.
And Sam.
Um, yeah, I think Star Wars is a really personal thing to everybody. And you know, Joseph Campbell wrote a whole book about how it is personal to everybody. So I'm really passionate about how I feel about what Star Wars should be for me. And, you know, I'm right in my own mind and you can't convince me otherwise, which is probably not the most healthy point of view. But I suppose the best thing is to be self-aware about that. In closing, I'm just going to say that I hope Disney puts out quality more than quantity, and they really, really make sure that the best product is produced rather than cheap cash grabs.
Very good. Seamus.
I will say I have zero faith in Disney because I know what their motivation is. You know, they fuck with our copyright laws for financial purposes. They acquire intellectual property for financial purposes. It's going to be cash grab after cash grab from now until the sun eats the earth. Especially with Disney's vice-like grip on things, one of the benefits of kind of late, you know, post-prequel Star Wars was that, like, Lucas had a very kind of loose grip on things, and so you could get the odd good comic book or video game that did something different. But I'm never going to get KOTOR 3. I'm never gonna get a Battlefront 3, at least not a real one. I really have no faith in it. All I can really do, all any of us can do, is kind of get what we liked about Star Wars, and then I'm just gonna settle in, watch the Laserdisc version of the original from '77, and just watch it get eaten alive with fanboyism, or maybe, you know, it'll run dry and it'll crash before then. Who knows? I hear the Han Solo thing is going to be terrible. They don't have any faith in it. I'm very cynical. Jim?
Well, I think one thing we all can agree on is the correct amount of Star Wars is always more. Whether it's enthusiasm for the new stuff or nostalgia for the old stuff, I think we can all agree that more is always better. So, well, thank you all for everybody who joined us, to our guest panelists, Saka and Rob, aka No Pants. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe for this video. Check us out on Facebook. We are the Geeked Cast. That's GEEKCAST, Geeked Cast. We don't have a Twitter yet. We do have a Google Plus page, so you can head on over there. That's probably the best way to keep up to date on whether or not we've got new stuff coming out. On either Monday or Tuesday, we will be watching and eviscerating the new Star Trek Discovery pilot. There will be beer, there will be Star Trek, and there will be geeks. So
But
join us all for that.
until then, we are the Geeked Cast, and this week we are geeking out about Star Wars.
Jim,
Yes.
before you go off air, is there any chance you could? Can you tell us the tale of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, please?
Yeah,
Darth
Jim,
Plagueis
holding
the
out on us.
Well, first off, you have to know it's not a tale the Jedi would tell you. But Darth Plagueis the Wise was a Sith master who had grown so powerful he could influence the midichlorians to create life.
Wow.
He became so powerful, in fact, the only thing he feared losing was his power, which of course eventually he did. Unfortunately, he taught everything to his apprentice, and his apprentice murdered him in his sleep. It's ironic, isn't it?
Fiend.
Because he could save other people from dying, but not himself. I think I missed a line or two there, but I think that's mostly it.
Does he specifically reference like women and childbirth?
I don't think so. I think that was one that was always kind of left to interpretation.
Or is that just implied?
But anywho, I'm Jim, and thanks everybody for joining us in the Geekcast. Have a good night, and may the Force be with you.
Bye, everybody.
Stay